Welcome to our TV program organized by the EPP Working Group on Intercultural and Religious Dialogue. This program follows an event discussion on the question, how can one talk and reach to Christian voters? Our participants today. In a second, we will be joined by Željana Zovko, MEP co-chair of EPP Working Group Intercultural and Religious Dialogue. With us is Hélder Sousa Silva, member of European Parliament. Welcome. With us is also José Luis Bazan, commission of the Bishops' Conferences of the European Union, COMECE, legal advisor for migration and asylum, also welcome. With us is also Reverend Frank-Dieter Fischbach, General Secretary of Conference of European Churches, welcome. And with us is also Ramon Barba Castro, Director of Advocacy for World Youth Alliance Europe, welcome. Welcome to all of you. Today we all face an erosion of fundamental freedom, Christian values and democracy. In these challenging times, politicians have to talk and reach out to voters, Christian voters. Mr. Sousa Silva, what is your approach to voters and having in mind that in the last couple of years we have seen a rise of intolerance towards Christians?
Okay, first of all, thank you for the invitation and a very warm compliments to the colleagues of panel. Okay, I'm a Christian politician, and I have, a huge experience, not in the European Parliament, but in the municipality side. And sharing this experience, I can share with you that the proximity and the fulfill of needs of our voters, and our people, is the most important for a Christian politician, the proximity and the fulfill of their needs, because of course they trust on us, and we need to keep and to maintain this trustability and all the time. We need to ensure that we are with him, with them all the time, not only during the elections period, but also during all the period of mandates. And if they feel that we are with them, we fulfill and we understand their needs, and we solve their problems, I think it's the most beautiful way to do politics, because we are serving, and we were elected to serve, and to serve in our community, it's a privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Sousa Silva, electing to serve. Mr. Bazan, tell us a bit about your experience from COMECE. What is the status of Christian voters in Europe today? Also, please remind us a bit what Pope Francis has in mind when talking about polite persecution of Christians in Europe. And could you tell us also something about misuse of language to silence those voters who are not in line?
Well, Pope Francis used this expression of polite persecutions to refer to a quite subtle way of trying to shut down or silence those Christians in the public sphere, mostly through discrimination or intolerance. I can bring you some examples. For example, the question of consensus objection of doctors, nurses, when they deny to perform abortion or euthanasia, is more and more restricted. In some countries even denied, like in Sweden, it's fully denied. We also can bring examples of expression of religious tenets considered as hate speech when it comes to topics which are polemic, like family, marriage, or life, even religious freedom or religious minorities. There are other types of discrimination, and also Pope Francis uses a very, vivid expression, which is ideological colonization. For example, the school indoctrination of children, where children are receiving certain doctrines which are contradicting the main tenets of the parents. This is a kind of, Pope Francis used the expression of stealing the conscience. So the battle is right now to maintain the possibility to act, to behave as a Christian, also in areas which are not strictly worship.
Thank you, Mr. Bazan. Mr. Barba Castro, as someone working and representing young people in the Advocacy for World Youth Alliance Europe, could you tell us a bit on the situation of young people and their response to politics and politicians? What do young people expect from politicians today? For example, from the biggest political group in the European Parliament, the European People's Party, EPP.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. I have one small update. I'm still a member of World Youth Alliance, but I'm former regional director of World Youth Alliance. I've just finished my term this week. But still, I have a huge experience with World Youth Alliance and dealing with young people in this topic. And I have to say that in this case, really, what a member of the World Youth, what a young committed member, as the ones that we have in World Youth Alliance, or even a Christian member, expects from a politician, especially from EPP politicians, is something quite similar to what we expected 10 or 15 years ago. In fact, my experience tells me that the reality for us is, although the reality is different, what we expect for young people from politicians is the same as studies conducted 10 or 15 years ago. We want politicians to be committed to trust, to dignity, and to see the politics with a sense of commitments towards the others, with the sense of serving people, which goes quite in line of the doctrine of John Paul II and also Pope Francis, and to what I've personally seen as a dignity defender during 3 years in World Youth Alliance. Thank you.
Mrs. Zovko, what is your approach to voters, bearing in mind that in the last couple of years we have seen the rise of intolerance towards Christians?
It is my approach to the voters. I think this working group for interreligious dialogue is my approach to the voters that I'm co-chairing together with my colleague Memerakis, who is not here with us today. But we took on this initiative to continue with the most important tool to have a platform for different faiths in order to communicate their religious difficulties or grievances as well that they are encountering every day in their life, and also what they need from us as a politicians in order to improve our work, our legislative work, and also to improve the way we communicate among each other, because sometimes politicians are using religion as well for self-promotion, and this is especially noticeable in the last years here in European Union, together in the United States, and politicians are appearing more Catholic than Pope. As a Catholic, I can say that in their preaching on how the society should be alike. But this platform that Working Group of Interreligious Dialogue is providing for encountering religious leaders or those who are working with religious groups is a perfect tool to also say that we hear them. We are Christian Democrats. And basically the idea behind the European People's Party is to take into account the religious aspect of society, and also to make society more inclusive.
Thank you, Mrs. Zovko. Reverend Fischbach, how would you describe the best way for a politician to reach out and to talk to voters today, in crisis times like today? What should be different in reaching the common goal?
Yeah, I would first like to remind us that it is not for all Christians that they are in a way of democratic life involved. So we also have to face also in our churches that there are church organizations, looking to the United States, for instance, which are also more part of the anti-democratic part of life. And we have to be in the churches also to be aware of this reality. But I would say that we as churches, we are part of a group of listening also. The Conference of European Churches has 115 member churches from all over Europe. And we only can be together if we listen to each other. And I think today it's even more important also for politicians to be able to listen to people, as you said, also in the municipality, in the local area, to know what is really the problems of the people, and then to go into a dialogue with them. And that's perhaps already the third point I would like to mention, that as Christians we are really asked to say the truth, to say what are the problems, and sometimes also to say we have not already now the solutions for that, but we have to work on that. And how do we do that? We are living in times of uncertainties, and I think we have to say also that tomorrow this time of uncertainty is not over already. And as Christians, we know that there are biblical stories to say, well, there are times of abundance of life, but there are also times of precariness of life, and we have to go through this time together. And I think that is something to speak honestly, to speak the truth. That is a way, I think, how to reach out to voters and to the people today.
Thank you, Reverend Fischbach. Ms. Zovko, Ms. Sousa Silva, what can politics today, and you as politicians and others in the European Parliament, offer to the voters? In other words, what kind of compass can you present with clear instructions for sense, hope, trust, and common goals, all based on social doctrine, subsidiarity, participation, fundamental values, and social life? Ms. Zovko.
I mean, you have said it already, what is in it. But what I can say also, I would like to thank COMECE for, and especially the legal advisor, for providing us with a great input and giving us guidance in our everyday work. For example, in the last plenary session, where we tackled the persecution of Christians in Nigeria and Congo, and also when it happened the same issue in Nicaragua, persecution as well, persecution of the church. I was helped and advised by legal advisors who, when we were drafting a resolution, with the right information and also with the right input, what to on the details of what is happening there, where to pay attention to, and the church has its people on the ground. And they are the best civil society, which we are trying to promote in External Action Service, to finally take into account the knowledge and the context the church has on the ground, and also the detailed reports. And this is basically why we are doing this promotion and talking today, and why we are organizing get-together in a plenary session when we are meeting together with our friends in order to discuss the latest events and how can we improve and help people on the ground with our urgency resolution and with a resolution on the specific country, because European Union is still the greatest, the biggest donor in development aid. But unfortunately, this money is not used in the right sense, because it doesn't reach the church, it doesn't reach the people on the ground, they don't have exact details on what is going on, and they're not tackling these issues. I mean, it took me 3 mandates finally to get into the title of the urgency persecution of the Christians, because we are faced here with the political groups that think that this issue is discriminatory against some other groups if we are helping to stop persecuted Christians, because sometimes this is a political issue in European Union. So we want to take this away from the discussion of the populist and bring it back into a mainstream and to deal with this in the right manner, but with the factual details, and also inclusive with the other religion. And I know that Islamic community, Imam Palavicini, which I spoke to him as well, and the other communities, Jewish communities, are very happy that we are doing these issues and that we are raising the awareness, because finally they can all raise their grievances about the intolerance that they're facing in European Union. So regardless of which ethnic group or which religious community you're belonging, as a minority, you face discrimination, and so far, until now, it was not treated as much as it should have been by the mainstream.
Before coming to an end, because we are short of time, unfortunately, from our guests from organizations and different churches, if you can put it in one sentence, what are your messages to politicians in this regard, what we were talking about? Starting with you, Mr. Barba.
For politicians, especially for politicians of the EPP, I think they are a great party, able to talk to everybody, but they need to come back and stick more to their Christian principles, which go quite in line with the social doctrine of the church of talking to everybody, pact, and try to make the best good and commit to reality and to the problems of reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bazan from COMECE.
Well, I would say that also to reinforce the idea of listening the real needs. We have to get rid of the humble ideologies, and we have to avoid any slogan of promised land.
Thank you, Mr. Bazan. Reverend Fischbach.
Yes. Yeah, I would underline again to speak the truth, but also then to explain from which values somebody explain its own policy, to make clear what are the original thoughts behind one policy. That is something also which is important, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Fischbach. Ms. Zovko, Ms. Silva, Sousa, you heard what the representatives of churches and organizations said. What are your conclusions?
I can start?
Yes.
Okay, my first conclusion is to have a very positive message to the voters and to our supporters, because sometimes the church the Catholic Church don't have a positive message, because the no, it's a word that we use a lot of times, and my first feeling is to use the yes. We have a positive message to the voters. The second one is the European Union have a huge Christian heritage in Europe, and we need to preserve and promote this heritage. And the third one is aligned with my colleague Zovko. We must continue to raise awareness regarding the religious persecution, especially of Christians. And we need to defend, we need to use our voice to raise the awareness in the world. It's not only in Europe, because this situation we can find all over the world. And we, as Christian politicians, we cannot support this kind of situation.
Thank you, Mr. Sousa Silva, Mrs. Zovko.
No,
Your final word.
As a Christian, as a politician, I'm quite in line with what my bishop wants from me as a politician. And I was just yesterday with him and discussing the issues. As I'm coming from a very multicultural and multi-religious society, originally from Mostar, he's facing the issues that not to be understood, and I invited him to discuss this issue at the next session here, because wherever you are a minority, you are persecuted. So my voice here and my involvement in politics is to help all these voices to be heard and to be understood, but in a way of tolerance and acceptance that there is a problem. And when I'm not in line with church doctrine, I go for confession and I try to repent and carry on. So this is, I think, the blessings that Catholics have, that they can always confess and stand up and continue. But if you are claiming to be a Christian, you have to understand that the church's message is always a positive. It's God's will and it's our will to go right way or wrong way. If you are doing it the wrong way, that's not God's will. So we all know, we all have our conscience as a politician. So we all know every day when we are making mistakes.
Thank you, Ms. Zovko. Dear guests, I thank you very much for participating and sharing your experience and views on the topics discussed today in the European Parliament. And in this TV program, I wish you a lot of success in your tireless and important work with and for the people. With us today in the open studio of the European Parliament in Brussels were Željana Zovko, member of European Parliament and co-chair of the EPP Working Group, Intercultural and Religious Dialogue, and host of the recent roundtable in European Parliament in Strasbourg. With us also was Hélder Sousa Silva, member of the European Parliament, then José Luis Bazan, Commissioner of the Bishops' Conferences of the European Union, COMECE, and legal advisor for migration and asylum. Also Reverend Frank Dieter Fischbach, General Secretary of Conferences of European Churches, and Ramon Barba Castro, Director of Advocacy for World Youth Alliance Europe. I'm Alen Legovic. Thank you for watching us. Follow us on the YouTube channel. Follow us also our activities of the EPP Working Group of Intercultural and Religious Dialogue in the European Parliament from the heart of Europe. See you soon and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.